Okay, so we're just gonna rise for the flag salute, please. They'll just let us know when. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening, everyone. We are going to run this meeting as a committee meeting until we get one more member. And then we'll have a quorum, and then we will call the meeting to order, and we will begin the official board meeting. So we'll start with reports, and I can start with my report. Let's see. So good evening. Thank you for joining us. As noted at our last meeting, we will be discussing a number of educational topics over the course of the year. Tonight we'll be discussing cell phone policies in schools. So that discussion will take place during new and old business. Secondly, we have heard from some board members that they will not be in attendance at our next board meeting scheduled on Wednesday, February 26th. Due to a widely attended community event taking place that same night, we anticipate not having a quorum and therefore are canceling the board meeting on February 26th. So after tonight, our next board meeting will be Wednesday, March 12th. However, we will hold a finance committee meeting before March 12th so that our business administrator, Ms. Augustin, can review with the finance committee the budget draft before presenting it to the entire board on March 12th. And that is it for me. So I am going to turn it over to Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Board President Isa. Like you said, during new and old, I'll give a brief report overview of the district's current electronic device procedures and present information about what's happening in the state, what we think is coming, and then what I think HPS should look to do. There are a few notes I want to present to the board. The first is that on March 19th, our PTA will host their annual Turkey Tray at the Tides in North Haledon. So hopefully we have a good turnout at the new location. Additionally, on March 14th, we will hold the now third annual East Coast Professional Wrestling PTA fundraiser in our big gym. I know that George and Liesel, and probably others have attended in the past. And it's been fun, and it grew from year 1 to year 2. So hopefully we'll see it continue to grow. We just got the flyer this morning, so we'll put that in our future mailings to the the parents and students. I want to talk about snow for a bit. Thus far, we've used only 1 snow day, which means we have a total of 2 snow days left. If we do not use those days, then by contract, they will be allotted to the extend the Memorial Day break. Likewise, if we have just like a real terrible next couple of weeks, every day we go after those 2 are allotted, we'd have to truncate the April break. So we hope to not have to get to that level. But because of that, we'll be looking closely at the weather the next couple of weeks because the weather does look iffy coming up. I got a security update. I want to inform the board that in order to make the school even safer during a lockdown event, we're putting electronic locking doors on the common bathroom for students. This means that the locks are going to lock from the inside of the bathroom, so that if a lockdown were to be triggered, the students that are in the restroom would be safe, from any bad guys outside. Furthermore, Meek and I weren't totally thrilled with the latest design for the front door area. This is an important project, and we're going to do it properly. And if that takes a little more time in the planning stages, then that's what we're going to do. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow with the architect and our director of facilities to see the feasibility of the most recent plan, and then we'll go from there. But it's definitely still a top priority. The final security update is that in the next budget, we're looking to install vape detecting devices in the common bathroom areas. Please note that these devices will not have any camera at all in them because it's a bathroom. They're simply vape detectors. They will be connected to our camera system that we have in that if the vape detector goes off, an alert will go through our camera system, and everyone with access to our camera system will get a pop-up that said vape detector alert went off in this bathroom at this time. And that helps us because with our cameras, we can kind of identify who might have been in the bathroom at that particular time, and that would be the a prudent place to begin that investigation. Do I think that vaping is a prolific problem at HPS in particular? No, but I do believe it's a problem, nationwide for teenagers, and it's been kind of easy to hide. So I think it makes sense in the next security upgrade, the next budget, to address this. Lastly, I spoke to Mr. Merlino, and he's going to give us some information about upcoming policies and tabled policies so that the board could have as much information about what's coming down the docket on that front. And we appreciate that opportunity to have, that explanation and the opportunity to ask any questions. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any questions from Mr. Walker?
I do have one last thing. It's good news. A friend of ours, a friend of Hale and Public's, Al Abdulaziz, he won a state assembly spot. He's going to be on the education committee for the state assembly, and he asked me to be an advisor. So I said yes. It's an unpaid volunteer job that I'm happy to do. So that's my brag.
Great,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Ms. Augustin, Business Administrator Report.
Yes, thank you, Madam BA, Madam President. I just want to send a reminder to the board members who have not submitted their financial disclosure form. You'll hear me say this until all the forms are completed and approved. Just remember, the deadline is April 1st for all of our returning board members, and February 1st has passed. So hopefully all the new ones already submitted. So I'm happy. The other thing is, just like Madam President mentioned, that the cancellation of the next board meeting, a letter or notice will go out tomorrow to let everyone know. But I do want to meet with the finance team, which I stressed at the finance meeting today, just so that we can go over, once we receive the state aid numbers and see where we are budget-wise, confirm all of our capital projects that we're looking to do next year, and to make sure that we can kind of iron out any questions for the board by the time the presentation or the board is, the budget is submitted to the county. We are meeting March 12th, so the tentative budget have to be approved then. The submission to the county is March 20th. That means that, we have to agree on March 12th, or we would have to have another meeting to pass the budget before March 20th. And that's why it's imperative that we get together as a finance team to discuss it. Our governor's announcement of our state aid will be the last week of February, and usually it's probably either the Thursday, I believe it is. We could watch it on line, and usually a few days after that we get our numbers, and then we're kick it into action to make sure that we have everything that we need to balance our budget. The last thing for announcements is the PTA donation. I have received some board members donation, but if you would like to donate, usually the board members collectively collect, and we present one collective gift for the PTA. The PTA meeting or event is March 19th, like was said, and I'll go out and get whatever we usually get, which is usually a gift card from the board collectively for this event. So please see me if anyone is interested. On the agenda tonight, we have a few things in finance. One of the things we have to do every year after our audit review is done is approve our comprehensive audit this year. So just some highlights from that audit, which is part of my presentation. So I'll just kind of do that now. The district is in good financial standings overall. You should have received a packet in the mail on Friday. If you want to look at that now or pull it out, that would be ideal to kind of go through some of the finances that the district is at right now. So we are looking at page 14. Okay. Okay. So on the audit, overall, the district is financially healthy. If you look at section 1 of your audit book, which is your management booklet here, in section 1, overall, it tells us what the general fund expenditures are for the year. Our total general fund expenditures was 23,826,671.09. Overall, after deducting Social Security and other pre-K inclusion expenses, our total expenditures for the year, our adjusted expenditures was 19,517,364. With that, every year, our auditors take a 2% of those expenditures and apply it to our general fund expenditures adjustment, which this year in line B4, if you guys look at that in section 1, is 390,347. On top of that, we did receive some extra extraordinary aid and non-public aid for the year of 79,000, in which it brings us to a total of unassigned surplus of 469,694 in line M. In line M, we can take this amount and we can use this to help balance our budget for 25-26. So once our audit is done from a previous year, this year is skipped from these numbers, and then the year that is coming up now to budget for, those are the funds that we can use as a revenue source in our budget, okay? With that being
Ms.
said.
Augustin, before you continue, Ms. Johnson is now online. Should we call the meeting to order so that this can be part of the?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That will be perfect.
So let's do that. So call the meeting to order. We already did the flag salute, so let me, read the route of egress. In the event of an emergency, all people may exit right or left from this room and proceed to an exit door. All doors will open from the inside. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Hailton Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published in the North Jersey Record Herald News, the board's official newspaper, on January 15th, 2025. Notices of this meeting indicating date, time, and place were posted publicly on the door of the main entrance to the school and filed with the clerk in the municipality of Hailton. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Serna? Mr. Coletta? Ms. Quadrado? Mr. Guzman? Mrs. Johnson?
I heard
something.
Yeah.
Mr. Martinez? Mr. Matzo?
Here.
Mr. Ramadan? And Mrs. Issa?
Here. Okay, so you're doing your audit presentation
Yes.
now, so you can just continue.
Okay,
Go ahead, thank you.
Yes, so I think I was at, finishing up section 1, and now we're on to section 2. So in section 1, we came to the point where we were discussing the maximum unassigned fund balance in which we can use as a district to balance our budget for 25-26. That total amount is $469,694. That is on page 14 of your audit management book that was sent to you on Friday, along with a copy of the agenda. In section 2 of this management page, we look at some items that are related to some of our reserves that the district has the capacity to use also in our 25-26 budget. Part of these are, we have a legal restriction in C1. We have to use these funds for our next year as far as the POs that we committed to from the previous year. So in 23-24, there were a total of $638,594 of purchase orders that were left open that rolled over to the next year. So these are restricted funds that we will still need to commit to for the subsequent year. And then we also have in C3, which is $907,000 also our total restricted fund balance that we can also use in our budget for the 25-26 school year. On C4, where it says unreserved assigned for fund balance, these are where our restricted reserves are, which are, if you look on page 16, the total amount of $6,306,866 is broken down as such. We have $4,860,000 in capital reserves. These funds are strictly used for capital projects. We also have $882,962 in maintenance reserves. Maintenance reserves can be allocated in the budget to be used strictly for required maintenance throughout the district. We also have emergency reserve, $250,000, and emergency reserves are used specifically for unforeseen items, such as when we had our the pipe situation in the cafeteria. If we didn't have funds to pay for it, we can use these emergency reserves to pay for those type of items. Now, emergency reserves are not the easiest to use. We would have to get county approval. We will also have to approve that this was an item that was unforeseen, that we didn't anticipate, and we did not budget for. So it is a process, even though it says emergency, there's still oversight by the county on how we can use those funds. But we have to get.
And we still have funds to utilize if we need in case of emergency.
Of course, yes, we do. And the final reserves, which is the reserve for unemployment funds, this is, as I stated in the finance committee, these are reserves that are set aside in case we had to pay out any unemployment claims. So the total reserves for the year is $6,306,866. And again, these reserves are restricted and only could be used for the category that's stated within the audit. Okay?
Can I get
Any questions on that?
On the capital maintenance and emergency reserve?
Examples?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we did our addition project, so we use capital funds to do the addition
So
project.
that's a planned expansion. That's what you mean by that.
Capital reserves are planned, maintenance are planned, emergencies are unforeseen and not planned.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, so those are our the audited finances for the year 23-24, and these we also have other items such as extraordinary aid and also the non-public aid, which I think I stated, and that's part of the unforeseen surplus that we receive throughout the audit process. So any questions on the finance and as far as the audit is concerned when it comes to the financial part of it? Okay. All right. In addition to our the actual finance parts, there's also a material part where there is the auditor takes samples of different areas within the district. They look at contracts, they look at salaries, they look at purchase orders, they look at student count, and there were some items that they noted in our report that the district has to kind of look into internal controls and correct. So we're going to be working on those, and we've already started the process. And a lot of this I attribute to the transitioning between the two software that we went through, the budgetary, but we're on top of this, and it states in our CAP, which is our corrective action plan, that we're going to approve tonight. Okay.
Is there a specific time frame to address those findings?
I put
Correct.
on the capital of the corrective action plan, depending on what it is. Some of the stuff is annual, like the ASA report. We only technically could approve, correct that on the next submission. And technically, the ASA report is submitted in October. So once our audit was complete, that was already submitted. So any corrections will probably, in all reality, be corrected this October 2025. But we have to put a time frame, which I put June 30th, because that's the end of the school year. Yeah, that's on the corrective action plan.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, that's
Any questions? Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Augustin. Okay, so let's vote on minutes. Can I have a motion to approve prior minutes?
Okay.
Now, we have two sets of minutes. Can we do them together, or do we have to do them one by one?
Whatever. Do it one by one if there's someone wants to vote on one or the other, but you can, they can state which ones they're approving if they want.
Okay, yeah, let's just do it together and then you can say both or just one. Okay, so, moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Motzko. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Matzo,
Yes.
and Mrs. Asay.
Yes. Okay, so can I have a motion to open the floor to citizens on agenda items only?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Motzko. Mr. Motzko, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the floor is open to citizens on agenda items only. Nothing? Okay, can I have a motion to close?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Motzko. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. To the agenda. So let's move down. We did, let's start going through our committee reports or committees. Personnel and management, Mr. Martinez.
Agenda items only.
Okay, curriculum and technology, Ms. Serna. Policy and public relations, Mr. Martinez.
Agenda items.
Security and safety, Ms. Johnson.
Agenda items.
Community and outreach, Mr. Motzko.
Agenda items.
Okay, and then finance and physical plant, Mr. Motzko.
We met today, discussed the budget briefly, as VA explained, and agenda items.
Oh, I guess we can do it.
Where do you, oh, sorry.
Yeah, we
That's
already-
all good.
So when we go back
All
to
good, yep.
vote, yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so, for state and county, Mrs. Progetto is not here. There was a county meeting, on the 29th. A few of us were there, on charter schools. It was an interesting meeting. There are 86 chartered schools in New Jersey, 63,000 students. There are 9 in Passaic County and 7 of them are in Patterson. They have a 5-year contract with the Department of Education to live up to their charter, whatever that may be. Just a couple of things here. I had asked if the, charter schools are K-12 or if they're segmented, like, middle school. And he said it really depended on the charter of the school. Some of them are K-12, some of them are just elementary or middle, or up to middle school. And some of them are high school specifically. And then there was a question about, which I thought was a good question, about special ed students and if charter schools can address the needs of special ed students. And the response was, it depends on the case. It depends on the needs of that student. So they may be able to address those needs, but they may not be able to. They have to follow all of the same things that public schools follow, but they may not be able to address the needs of a particular student, in which case that student would likely be referred out the way they are at a traditional public school. Anybody who was there want to add anything? Okay. Mr. Merlino, anything?
Yeah, so on the agenda tonight, under section 9, are policy updates and some new policies that Strauss Esme is recommending. As I mentioned last time, Strauss Esme is the company that does our policy, and they do everybody's policies. They do all the districts. They take the policies that are required by the Department of Education, they put an M on it for mandated. So there's several of those either new policies or changes tonight. So the M's are there. They also had a lot of updates, a lot of language. We looked at them. I think they're mostly wordsmithing, but they're crossing out some words that we we thought might be more substantial than maybe just a slight revision. So at my recommendation was, like, when I saw the agenda, let's, because they came out Friday, let's take off some of those revisions that are not mandated. Let's and give the board members some more time to look through those, and we'll put them on for the next meeting. They're not mandated, so there's no immediate requirement that we do those changes, if at all, really. That's why if you look on your agenda, there's some that are crossed out and said removed. We'll just put those on for next time, just to give everybody the opportunity to look at those. But we did leave the mandated ones on, because those mandated ones, like I said, are right from the Department of Education. A lot of those relate to the Uniform State Memorandum. And again, these are all things that we don't really have a say. And for CUSAC, we need to adopt it. So we do need to adopt those tonight. But that's my report.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Merlino. Any questions? Okay. Okay, then, so let's
And
start.
Jeff, can I jump in real quick with a question?
Sure.
Because I know one of the policies was the artificial intelligence, and I just I think we both decided we didn't want to jump into having the board vote on something because it just came out and it's a pretty hot topic.
Yeah, that one's more substantial. So that one came out as well, and that was never on the agenda. So artificial intelligence, we've all been waiting for it. The state Department of Education worked with Strauss Esme, and they did come up with one, but it's not mandated, and it may not apply to K-8 districts. It might be better for high schools. So it was put out there, and it's kind of like a soft recommendation. It's something that that the administration really should look at first to see if this works for you as an elementary school and a middle school, and whether maybe it doesn't even apply to the elementary kids, and maybe it's more better for the middle school grades. So I think that's something the administration should really look at first, and then make a recommendation to the Board of Education as to which way you want to go. But you're not bound to what Strauss Esme is recommending. It really is just an initial draft of that policy. That's a more substantial policy.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Okay, so let's start with personnel and management.
I'd like to move 7.1 to 7.5, please.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Motzko. Roll call, please.
Can we have discussion first, please? When I asked last meeting about having a fully staffed, you said that we were fully staffed, but then we have a new hire. So are we replacing
What item number are you talking about?
7.1?
Oh, this is a cafeteria aide. So we had one of our former cafeteria aides passed away.
Yeah,
a couple months ago.
I got that one, but I thought that we were fully staffed, so I thought you.
I was referring to the teaching and certified staff members. I wasn't referring to. I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
Okay, who was voting?
We haven't started.
Okay.
Okay, so roll call, please.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Moxell,
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mrs. Zissou.
Yes. Okay. Curriculum and technology. So go back to my numbers. This curriculum and technology, Mr. Ramadan.
Motion to move 8.1 to 8.5. Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Ramadan, seconded by Mr. Martinez. Roll call, please.
Again, I have a question. I called earlier today, just to get more insight on 8.5. I wanted to know what was the last 5 years of the field trip for 8th grade that we're going to Six Flags instead of like something educational? Is that like a part of the prom, or is it
I
like?
think it's a fun activity, though,
This is
right?
like-
Of course it's fun, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, they're already in school.
Technically it's a field trip. It's more of a celebration for them. Having accumulated their experience
So are we
here.
not doing like a DC thing anymore? Like that was when my son was in
Yeah,
school,
they
but I
used,
just wanted to know
so
like. for
they
the
used
past
to go to
5
like
years.
DC, or in the years before that, the 7th grade would go to like Boston.
Oh, okay.
That was something that, the interest in that was strong, but it was kind of waiting a little bit.
Of course.
So we just decided to let's go locally.
So are we just, so this is new, Six Flags?
So they've been going to Six Flags each of the last several years, but they also go to like like our 7th grade, they ended the trip, they go on like one of those cruises around New York, and the 8th grade, I believe, last year they went somewhere in Brooklyn to do some kind of jump laser, something like that. And then from Brooklyn, they went to the American Dream Mall and did whatever they did at the American Dream Mall. So
are we just doing field trips to be fun or just gonna be like educational? I know
Well,
that
for
this was
the-
a topic last
for
year,
this
but-
particular
Right.
grade, I would kind of advocate, this is the end of the line for them. So if this is where they want to go, and this, I would be, I'd approve them going for something like this. If this was a trip for like grade 3 or 4, it would be a much different story.
Your vote?
Mrs. Turner?
Oh, yes.
So I just want to add, I totally agree that for the younger grades, it should be something educational, fun but educational. But for the middle school, I think, especially 7th, 8th grade, it's okay if they do something a little bit more recreational and social. They've kind of earned it, and they look forward to it. But okay, so
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
Mrs. Zissa?
yes. Okay. Policy committee.
I'd like to move 9.1, please.
Sorry.
And these are just the mandated ones I see the lawyer said, right?
The ones,
Correct.
so the ones that are mandated, the ones that were not mandated were struck through. So those we will table until the next. And by the way, this is a first reading. So this doesn't mean that we're adopting these. We're approving the first reading. There will be a second reading of these at the next meeting. And that just allows for time for more review,
And we'll
more
have a policy committee
questions.
meeting too.
Yeah, and we'll have a policy, we'll have a policy committee meeting before the next meeting. Oh, roll call?
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mrs. Zissa?
Yes. Okay, and now skipping down to finance and physical plant, Mr. Motzko,
I'd like to move 1 through 12.
the next second,
Second.
moved by Mr. Motzko, seconded by Mr. Martinez, roll call, please.
Mrs. Turner?
Am I doing, I'm gonna abstain from 12.12.
I think it's just the listing, the bill listing that you have to abstain from, you don't have to abstain from the entire.
Yeah, 12.12,
Right.
right?
Okay.
12, the item, you
Right.
mean? Like,
Mhm.
so
Right,
whatever the
item
item, that's
12.12.
Mhm.
12.12 is the resolution, and then there's a bill on the bills
Right.
list.
Okay,
We
so
fill
yeah,
different
it's-
ones,
right.
right.
And
So she's-
97.
Mhm. Okay, perfect. All right,
And yes, the rest.
okay. Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Is there anything that you need to abstain?
Mhm.
I
I
don't-
didn't see anything. in those.
No, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, all right.
Can you guys hear me?
No,
We,
Oh, okay.
she don't have it in the list.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
She's good.
Mr. Moxell?
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan?
Yes.
And Mrs. Zissa?
Yes. Okay, so now we're gonna move to new and old business, and Mr. Walker's
sorry.
gonna talk about, our cell phone policy. And then we can talk about the articles that I, sent out and just have a little discussion, and go from there.
Sure. So I'm gonna read aloud what I had given to the board members in the room, because I know we have people, joining us from Zoom. So in this past January, Governor Murphy expressed support for a bill that would require the Commissioner of the Department of Education for New Jersey to create a model cell phone policy to offer guidance to districts pertaining to the topic of student cell phone usage in public schools. The bill will likely look to prohibit cell phone usage by students in the academic setting, and it's possible that the model policy may even advocate for a total prohibition of cell phone usage for students in the schools. I imagine that a committee will be formed at the commissioner's office, which aims at crafting this guidance to the districts. I do not believe it's been stated, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but I don't believe it's been stated when we should expect this policy to be given to district superintendents or to district board of education members. Currently, each school district's board of education in their policy may determine how they wish to regulate student cell phone usage. Some schools have opted for total, complete cell phone bans. Other schools have utilized a modified usage of cell phones. Our district cell phone usage was board approved within our student code of conduct. I provided copies of this on the following pages on Exhibit A. So when you go to Exhibit A, it's got a circle with the letter A on top. You'll see that on the left, you'll see the column titled Behaviors. The third one down is electronic device usage. That's, for a student that's in grade 6th, 7th, or 8th. This is the discipline policy that Mr. Spizzato or Mr. Trino or Mr. Polzano or myself would look to follow. A level 2 is be determined by the frequency that the event happened or the severity that something happened. And if you keep going along, you'll see the same code of conduct for grades 3, 4, and 5 for their cell phone usage. So this is what we look to follow with that. And 4. Now, if you keep going, you'll see Exhibit B. Exhibit B details the number of students that were written up by staff members this year for electronic device usage. So that represents the total number of times a teacher logged into our real-time system and wrote a student up for disciplinary action for cell phones. For those of you at home, the answer is a total of 4 times that's happened this year. Exhibit C details the number of students that were given self-managed warnings for cell phone usage violations. This means that a student was using their phone when they weren't supposed to. The teacher didn't want to have the discipline assigned, but the teacher still wanted to note it in the system. So if it happens again, the teacher can say, I gave you a chance once, but this is the last chance you're going to get before I officially write you up. That total was 4 total times this year as well. And then Exhibit D discusses the district's current cell phone policy on student-owned technology devices. And some of the highlights of that are that this board, through its policy, has decided that if there is a valid reason for a student to be using a device in the classroom, the teacher is allowed to let that happen. There's guidelines for that, but that's something that this board adopted to utilize. Now, here's the looming questions that I think parents should have and staff members and board of ed members. The first question is, will the DOE's model policy be mandatory for all districts to adopt? In other words, I'm not sure if they're going to give a model policy and it's a mandatory model that you have to follow, or if it's here's what we want you to do, but you still have the sovereignty to kind of do what your own thing. The second question I have is, will districts continue to implement cell phone policies that allow for students to have cell phones at certain times of the day? So my question here is this bill going to be a total prohibition of cell phones, or is it going to give some opportunities for a kid to bring a device to the school? Another question is, will funding be given to districts to cure whatever it is the district feels it needs to be able to implement the cell phone, whatever the cell phone policy is? So I know some schools buy like cell phone lockers or have cell phone like the lock device, whatever it's going to be. If we look to do something like that, are we going to be on the hook for it, or can we get some kind of reimbursement?
And that doesn't fall under the emergency funds either.
No.
Most likely, yeah, probably not.
I'm
Right?
just saying. I'm just saying.
It's an emergency. The next is when's day one of this going to be? Is this going to be we get something in a couple weeks and says, hey, you better have this ready by September, or is it going to be you have to the January 1st? Or I don't know when that's going to be. And the last question is, what should HPS look to do about this topic? So I provided a little op-ed. When cell phones first came out, it seems like most districts' initial reaction was to ban them. We don't want to have cell phones in schools. And years passed by, and I think districts saw that they weren't fully able to enforce the policies of a total ban. And that gave use to the kind of like bring your own device type policies, when we see that in Exhibit D. But I think that was the genesis of going from, hey, we're gonna do a total ban to now there might be good reasons to do it.
And if I may, and also like with all the stuff going on at the schools, they wanted to like parents be notified, and that became a thing where
the students checking their own grades, they're checking their own reports, their own records, yep.
And they check in with their parents and stuff like that. Call me, and that became something where they gave a little more lenience on to allow them to use the phone, just like they on the planes. Wasn't that one time? It was dead zone through as soon as you get in the airport and on a plane and then leave. Now you have a little more time in between.
So it seems like a lot of the things you're discussing stem from, we're gonna move away from a total ban.
Emergencies happening, and then it became where they started looking into.
Agree. But now we're at a point where it looks like the pendulum is starting to move back towards the idea of advocating for total bans. I think that cell phones in teenagers' hands are both somewhat necessary, and I think they have the potential for harm. But I think that the real damage that I see isn't really what we're seeing within the classroom. I think that a lot of students are staying up very late, and I see it in my own home with my son, because these TikTok algorithms and their Instagram Reel algorithms, they're meant to kind of get you addicted and to get you to keep scrolling and staying up late. And since the adaptation of those, just the eyeball test, the amount of students coming in looking tired or lethargic or coming in late, and even our days off, the amount of kids being absent, it seems to be going up in correlation with the rise of popularity of those platforms. I think that social media's impact on students' self-perception is a real thing, and I think it's for the most part, a overwhelmingly negative impact. There are some good things about social media, but it's we see the impact of the negative here at school probably more than we see the good. I think the toxic influencers are a big harm. We had an HIV a couple months ago because someone saw something on TikTok and wanted to emulate the TikTok challenge or TikTok trends, whatever they're called, and someone got hurt and held it because of that. So I think that's dangerous. And then there's always, a lot of these apps make it so that the record of conversation between your child and whoever they're talking to, it's going to disappear after a certain time, or you're not going to be able to see it. And I think that's a scary thing for both parents and administrators, because we want to kind of have a good idea what they're saying and why. Now, the data provided by the staff via the discipline write-ups is showing me that cell phone usage in the school day is not a major impediment to teachers' classrooms. We only saw 4 official write-ups so far and 4, warning kind of write-ups. I think many teachers do a wonderful job either gathering the phones when the kids walk in, and other teachers simply tell the students that they're expected to keep the phone out of sight. Students are expected to put a phone away when an adult staff member instructs them to do that, just like they're expected to follow any other directive reasonable directive given to them by an adult staff member. I think if this board wishes to adopt a phone policy that demands a total ban, then that will be the will of the board. And it'll be my job to ensure that the will of the board is enforced. If the board has the ability to create a policy that may be more reasonable or a bit more flexible, then I would advocate for that. I know that this is a walking district, and a lot of moms and dads get a certain peace of mind when they can see their kid walk home on the whatever the 360 thing is called.
Find my app.
Yeah, one of those things. Yeah. So, and if let's be honest, if you took our school and you dumped it upside down, you'd have 1,000 cell phones fall out of it. So, I definitely don't want to rush into this. I know we're kind of at the will of the state or we could be to a certain degree, but I think the right move is just for us to pay attention to this issue. Kind of figure out what may have been working in other places and not working in other places. What are the unintended consequences that they've experienced? And just kind of follow the issue until we need to make a decision, because right now I'm not convinced that this is, this wasn't part of our strategic plan to fix this. The discipline data is not showing us that it's a major need. But we might have to take some kind of action. So if that's whatever it's gonna be, I think we should, plan those steps and then take those actions. That's my report. Ravi?
Maybe set some expectations,
So we,
you know what I mean?
yeah, so depending on what we're tasked to do, then, the next step I'd like to get, parents and some of our older students and teachers to kind of weigh their opinion on whatever it is that we might have to do. But right now, I don't even know what that
It's not a
looks
problem
like,
right
so
now.
I don't know
It's
what
not
the-
a
Still a
problem.
legislator, it's not going anywhere.
Right,
It's
so,
not- right now,
I
it's
mean-
not-
But because it's not a problem, it's good to set
Right.
expectations, so that way it doesn't become a
And Ms.
problem.
Sonnenberg, a good point. I think that some districts have kind of jumped the gun
Yeah,
and
they
said,
jumped the
I
gun.
wanna,
Yeah, right.
I wanna do X, Y, and Z. We're not in that position, but I think it's still a topic that is very appropriate to have at a board meeting, in public.
To have a plan, to have a plan. We have to have a plan.
So basically, our policy right now is that some teachers will take the phones at the beginning of class. And then some teachers will just tell the students, don't have it out, I don't wanna see it. And I mean, that is reassuring that there've only been 4 incidents reported, so that's really good. I mean, actually, this was one of the topics that, we all agreed we wanted to talk about before this before Governor Murphy even, gave this directive. So, I think it's important. A lot of research has been done. And there actually is, to your point, Mr. Motzko, about the security. In a few of the districts, and a couple of those articles that I forwarded, the police departments are on board with banning or limiting. They think it either interferes with security or it doesn't help in any way. But just to give, I don't know if you all had a chance to look at the articles, but just like a very quick overview. So Ramsey High School, they went ahead and did a ban as of January. They're using the Yonder pouches. Those are devices that they lock so that the kids, they can bring their phones in, but they are locked at certain times. And then they unlock them during like recess, during lunch, at those kind of times. Let's see, in Linden, the middle school, and in Jersey City, they use the Yonder pouches. But Jersey City, interestingly, they don't unlock it at all, not even at lunchtime. And that kind of speaks to, research saying that cell phones and this having access to cell phones, like this 24/7 access to the cell phones, it hinders social interaction and peer interaction, which I think is, important. I think that's valid. And then actually closer to Hilden, Prospect Park, implemented a ban during instructional time. And what they do is they assign slots in storage boxes. So, there's different ways, and I actually had some questions too. Some of mine kind of were the same as yours, Mr. Waka. But, the question was, if we did do a ban, would it be a total ban? Would it be just part of during classroom time? And then they, would have access to it at recess, which is what happens a lot now, but it seems more like on an informal basis, like teacher by teacher. Should the onus be taken off of the teachers? Like if we have these devices, right, then the onus is off of the teachers, and there's not, although it doesn't seem to be a problem, but then they don't have to worry about that. But, those are expensive, those pouches.
No, they are very expensive. And if I may say, if you're done, Madam President.
I'm not done, but you
Okay,
can
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No.
So, and then the other question was, what are some of the other alternatives? Like, there was one article, and I don't remember now which one it was, that said that what they do, this seems logistically, this might be challenging, but when students come in, they switch out their Chromebook for the cell phone. So they have designated areas and they don't get their Chromebook for the day until they give in their cell phone. So that would be like logistically, that might be difficult. And that would still, I'm guessing that would still be put the onus on the teacher to, have to take instructional time to do that. But that would be one way to do it without having to pay for pouches or anything like that. But basically, like, and this is a discussion, we're not planning to do anything
Yeah.
this year unless
Right.
the governor says we have to, or the Department of Education says we have to. What would be our next step? Like, we're discussing it now, we're kind of just throwing things out there, but like, what would be our next step? Any other questions, any other thoughts? Yeah, Mr. Ramadan.
Did we kind of get any feedback from the parents so far, like randomly based on this phone procedure?
I've had a couple of parents email me about, I heard that there's gonna be a cell phone ban, and I said, well, that's not exactly the case, but it was announced, but we don't know, as Mr. said, where it's fully going. I think some of the board members, Ms. Stern, that I believe you did as well, attended the Parent Academy thing we had a year or two ago. I don't recall the topic of cell phones specifically being a discussion point at all. Maybe if I'm wrong, correct me, but I don't recall that coming up. So I think most parents would say to you, yeah, I am a little bit afraid of the dangers of cell phones, but I think a lot of parents are also those same parents are gonna say, but I really like
To be in
Getting
contact.
Yeah.
See, the
Well,
thing,
no, I agree. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's not.
As long as it's not within the confine of the classroom.
Right,
It
but-
does- it will hinder.
that's what I was gonna
in the
say now.
classroom.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
When she says that, it's.
But right
Now,
now,
being-
they're banning that when the teacher is
Right.
instructing, the student is, the teacher says cell phones away.
Yeah, but that's fine though, but not necessarily. What I was gonna say was, not necessarily. And now that I'm doing a little teaching and I've been into different schools, it ain't the cell phone in your Chromebook. These kids are out playing video games.
Right.
It ain't the social media, all right, so much when they're interacting. They're playing pool against each other. They're playing spades against each
So
other.
they're still interacting.
And they're using the Chromebook. Like, the district where I'm at, you can actually go in the teacher's Chromebook and see what the student is doing
Yeah.
on their Chromebook. And you can shut it down.
Right? It's
No,
the class,
well,
nothing-
all districts are able to do that, but it's not that. And they're still playing it because even in my class, after I didn't give you the test, after we went over things we're going over, if you got makeup work to do from another class, go ahead and do it. I walk around to do they're playing games.
Okay, but there is a solution for this.
Right.
We own the Chromebooks.
Right.
You could correct me. We could basically block that.
It's free.
Eliminate,
It's
no,
more than
eliminate the
free.
games, period.
Can you?
If that, yes,
Games, period?
yeah.
To the best we can. I mean, there's some sites.
If there's some sites that you just can't, and there's sites that are
They're
for
gonna be
educational
limited.
sites.
Exactly, but what I mean is the restriction of the software usage
Mhm.
lies on us. Am I correct or not? Because we control
We
the
do,
software, the
We do.
limitations, the downloads.
we do, 100%.
If you're using.
Now,
student
if I was to
Chromebooks,
send an
you
Ed
control
puzzle,
a lot of us.
they need to be able to get into the Ed puzzle, and they need that kind of software that also allows them to get into the games.
Again, but Mr. Walker is saying that it's not really an issue here.
It's not,
So,
and that's a great
the
thing.
teachers
No, I'm
are
just,
already
just
working it.
speaking general. When it becomes an issue is when because at the end, it's spending money.
Yeah, we just have to tighten the belt when it comes down to it and just make a plan.
But it seems like the
for-
belt
for
is already
when-
tightened.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
but for us to make a plan. for
Yeah,
when-
it's tightened. When my son was going to school here, it was a problem with cell phones, all right? We talked the sidekicks and all the phones, all right? That's
We
what it
don't
was
have-
for. Now I think it's more of a control setting, at least for us here in this district.
We don't have an issue here,
No,
but I guess
Other
that's what we're
schools do.
talking, other schools do, but I guess us talking and figuring out a plan for when it does
Future.
get tightened, we already know what to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
That's
the
what-
best course of action is to follow what's going on and.
Keep up with it.
And then, once we see what is concrete coming out from the state, I think we'll be in a better position to say what, if any, steps to take.
Yeah, I mean, if something isn't broken, we don't need to fix it if it's not broken, but it's a good topic because especially in light of the US Department of Education giving a directive, New Jersey Department of Education giving, possibly having a ban coming up. So, it's a good discussion and it's good to hash this out a little bit. And I agree. I think we should wait and see what happens. We weren't really gonna do anything before the end of the school year anyway. So, but in the meantime, we could keep watching, looking at the data, seeing if there are any more incidents, seeing if there are, if there's any uptick.
Yeah,
You know,
and a lot of the what ifs too, like, what What about the watches that act as cell phones? Or what about the this, that, and then my, I'm probably snitching on my son, but like.
How about the glasses?
They give like cell phone cases, they put them in the boxes and they get away with it, right? So, it's gonna be the kind of thing that if we have to take action, we're gonna have to set up a structure and then look to whatever ways we can continually improve it, look to do that. But Jeff, anything from your end that you want to make this board aware of?
No, everything that you said is exactly the debate going on. There's like all these pros and cons, and I think most districts are going to wait and see what the Department of Education mandates on this.
Okay.
Right, but do we have let's say a backup plan, in the event again, the state comes and say, it's black and white.
So
Either this or you don't.
Our backup plan would be in our board approved code of conduct, student code of conduct, which says, the board approved a code of conduct that prohibits unauthorized use of cell phones, right? So if a student is on their phone at a time when an adult did not authorize that, then we have the justification through policy to say, this is what we're looking to do. So I'm hopeful that the model policy is not going to make us, because we have 1,000 kids walking through one door in a span of maybe 30 minutes, in the morning. If we have to stop each kid, take their phone, put it in a pouch, it's going to be logistically, I'm going to need, adults there to help regulate that, equipment, because we got to make sure, if right now our policy says, look at Exhibit D, if you lose your phone, or if it gets damaged here, we're not responsible because we didn't tell you to bring it. But I could also see, if you're telling me that when I come in, I have to bring my cell phone to a board-approved locker, and then somehow it gets damaged, I might say, hey, Board of Ed, you broke my $1,000 phone got broken when I just followed your instructions, right? So I'm not saying we're going to break every phone, but eventually someone's going to drop something, and it's an expensive thing to drop. So I think there's just a lot to factor in before we move forward.
Yeah, we should watch, just keep watch, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you. That was a good discussion.
That was good.
All righty, so let's have a motion to open the floor to citizens.
So second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Motzko. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, can anybody like to address the board?
No hands.
Oh, Tom, thanks for
Okay.
the snow stuff there, Dave. You guys have a great job.
Okay, can I have a motion to close?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Ms. Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we do have an executive session. Ms. Johnson, you can log off now. Thank you. No action will be
So
taken.
we can have the executive session if the board wishes to do it. I can review to you that you got the packet with the summary findings. Did all the board members get that?
Yeah.
I'm happy to review that in executive if that's the wish of this
Yeah.
board. Or if you've all read it and you're comfortable, then we can move on. It's up to the board.
Oh, okay.
There's no, we're not voting on
Anybody?
anything.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to go into executive?
Anybody have a question or anything about the concern?
Okay, all
Way it's
right,
been
that's
handled.
fine. That's fine then. We can skip the
Mhm.
executive session.
Works.
Okay, all right then. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Martinez, seconded by Mr. Motzko. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then we'll see you on March 12th. And Finance Committee, please look out for an invite or for a notification for a Finance Committee meeting.
Yes.
For March 12th.
Before March.
Yeah. Okay, adjourned. Thank you.